The field that I've identified is radio broadcasting. Okay, so I want to improve radio broadcasting. Now, the aspect of radio broadcasting that I'm going to choose that I feel would be worth modelling is Sarah's enthusiasm on air. Okay. And that might just be because every time I've been on air it's about 5 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, so I'm being told I don't sound as enthusiastic as Sarah. It might be down to the fact that when I go on air it's normally at 5 in the morning and I've had about 3 hours sleep. There we go. But do you think that might be a factor? Or? Sorry, I beg to differ.
You're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with it.
Okay, there you go. It's all coming out. The real you. Okay, so who inspired you?
Okay, so radio-wise, in what way?
Well, who inspired you? Who inspired you as a broadcaster? Who was your inspiration?
What when I first started out?
To be, to do?
General.
Yeah.
Okay, well what I tend to do is, I do listen in to different radio shows. My kind of style, I like Fern Cotton, I think she's quite good. She's quite chatty, quite lively. But what I do tend to do is I listen back to past shows as well, and I kind of, when I first started I was listening to what questions they were asking first of all to start the show.
And the key to elicitation is we want to break down each individual category, so we want to reel the expert back in again. Okay, so the key is, what I want to know at this point is who Sarah's inspiration was. So she identified Fern Cotton at this point, and different shows she may have heard on air. Now she's sort of telling me her process, and this present moment in time, from the expert, we want to know who it was.
So it wasn't just one particular person. I do tend to listen in to different shows that are on. So quite a lot on BBC, so Radio 1. Lots of different BBC shows.
Okay, sure.
I'm in the car, really. Whoever's on. I tend to listen in and.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. That so we've got an overview. We can carry on with this process for as long as we feel necessary. We can be more specific. You know, who on the BBC. Who on Radio 1, and keep getting a bigger overview. But I think for the purpose of the exercise, we've got enough here.
I also do watch, when I'm watching interviews on TV and things like that, I do kind of watch the interview styles and what kind of questions they're asking.
Okay, so TV interviews as well.
Yeah.
Okay, how did they inspire you? How did Fern Cotton inspire you and these other people on the BBC? How?
I wouldn't say that she really inspired me. I don't know if there was anyone that particularly inspired me to do radio. I think an opportunity came up, and I'm very much all about just, you know, even though it was a little bit fearful, just going for it and having a go and things. I won't say there was anyone particularly.
Okay, and that's the key really, because once again we want to revert this back into an elicitation. So at this point here, because we're speaking consciously, one of the key things is, okay, so you talked about how these various people were an inspiration to you in the area, and now how, regardless of how much you felt you were inspired by these people, how did they inspire you?
Robinson, he inspired me. I've been to some of his events, and when he interviews people and what have you, I do listen most mornings to CDs by Wayne Dyer and Anthony Robbins. I'm getting ready in the morning, so their kind of questioning skills and how they speak as well. Okay, so there we've got that answer. And the key is with your model is to be fun with them. So if they do go off on a tangent and tell you about something that happened, you know, wherever, and it's got no applicability to what you want to know at that present moment in time, it's reeling it back in. So in Sarah's situation, I said, well, who inspired you? She identified 1 or 2 presenters and talked about 1 or 2 shows, yet when I talked about how, it was veering off into a different conversation. I pulled it back in again, and we got 2 more people, Wayne Dyer, Robbins, and how they did was through their questioning techniques.
Okay, so the two things I could do now is one, get to know a little bit more about the questioning techniques of Robbins, what he does. I could do that by asking Sarah, and I could do that also by listening to Robbins and Dyer's questioning techniques, and possibly tuning in to Fern Cotton and various shows on the BBC, and starting to get an overall picture as to how the process is. What are Robbins' questioning techniques? And Dyer's and whatever else. What is it about their questioning techniques?
I listen to their tone of voice as well, to be honest. I wouldn't say it's just questioning techniques. What I tend to do at the radio station, we have a listen again feature. So all the past shows, you can listen again to everyone's show. And what I tend to do is I see who's got really popular shows and how many listeners are listening in. And then I listen to their shows and see what kind of questions they ask first of all, and how they start the show, how they welcome people. And also their style, so their pace, their volume, their tone. But I have learned, I suppose, from experience, if you've been on a show and you've been really enthusiastic and excited and you've listened back and you've come across as shouting and I'm like, okay, so I'm toning it down a bit.
Yeah. Okay. Where and when do you perform the skill capability?
When am I on it?
Okay, so when you're on it.
When I'm on it, yeah. All the shows I do are live shows predominantly. I do some pre-recorded, but I think it does help being live as well.
Is there any other time where you perform the skill?
I suppose on the courses as well. Okay. I do use my hypnotherapy voice sometimes on there. Get more listeners.
What specifically do you do?
When I'm on air?
Well, when you're doing the skill, what specifically do you do?
Okay.
And what I'm going to do at this point here, I'm going to get you to close your eyes and I'm going to go into the unconscious mind. So just close your eyes, really relax, and I'm going to come back from 5 to 1. As I count backwards, you're going to become more and more relaxed. 5, really relax, let yourself go. Take a big breath in, breath out, really relax, and let yourself go. 3, 2, 1, just relax. One hand might be warmer than the other, foot against the floor, back against the chair, really relax, let yourself go. Okay, think of a time now that you are on air or you're performing that skill and capabilities. Just think of where you are, what you see, what you feel, the colours of what you're wearing, what people are wearing around you, what they're saying, what you feel, where the feelings are, and just really reconnect and give me a nod when you're there in the here and now. Okay, fully engage in that process and think about what you specifically do. What are you specifically doing in that situation? Okay, so we're rerunning it like it's the here and now. And as you reassociate to what you're specifically doing, when you come back, I want you to bring back the specifics of what you do in that situation where you're applying that skill and capability. Okay, and I'm going to bring you back to the here and now, and I want you to bring back those skills with you. Okay? So when you're ready, come back to the here and now. Okay, so we could carry that process on for a significant longer period of time, as long as you want. So because we're on a course and because of time and everything else, I've kind of limited to just a very short duration. And all I've done is I've altered Sarah's state of consciousness. So she's gone down to a slightly more, into a slight state of trance, just to listen to my answers. What specifically do you do?
Okay, so before I even do the radio show, I like to be really prepared. So, well, it starts off from the beginning, selecting a guest. I like to find someone who's interesting and who I think that the listeners can, gain something from listening to. So I try to find inspirational people to come on the show as a guest. Then what I will do, I'll email them across all the details for the show and ask them to send me roughly about 15 questions or topics or songs that they'd like to talk about. Okay, so I can get a rough idea of where I'm going to take them first of all. Okay, then when they turn up, get them to turn up a little bit earlier so we can have a chat, just run through things, just to make sure that we're prepared. And then what I always say to people is, just have some fun. I always say this to people, it's all coming back. Just have some fun and enjoy it. I don't have a structured, rigid set of questions that I'm going to ask. I like to let it flow so it's all natural as well. So you can have a bit of banter as well. And I always say just enjoy it.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause sometimes you get really nervous people.
Would you have been able to answer that question as specific without being unconscious, or did
It does help to reconnect.
Okay, so that's the key. If we can get the person to an unconscious state, we can draw out a lot more information. Now, my interpretation of that now, just that specific question there, I've got some valuable tools and techniques and to initiate my process, but I can even go away and think of that more carefully and more structured. But to give you an idea of what I could do there, preparation. I could find out more about Sarah's preparation and adapt it to my own preparation. Interesting guest. I can get more thoughts on what constitutes as an interesting guest, what people want to hear, who inspires people. Okay, emailing details, questions. If I haven't been doing that already, another technique I can use, emailing the 15 questions prior to that, so that's giving time to prepare to fire the questions across. That's going to sound a lot more orderly and organised. And also, what Sarah said that was quite interesting and unique, state, NLP technique. So in NLP, we need to manage our state and the other person's state whenever we deliver a session. So the way Sarah manages the guest state is through getting them to associate to a time where they were having fun, so just enjoy themselves. Okay, so they're seeing it as a process of enjoyment. So state management.
Right. I get them to come a little bit early so we can have a bit of a chat. If I've not met them before, build up a bit of a rapport, so they go in really relaxed and I can explain everything and just get them.
Yeah, because there are other ways and means to get someone relaxed. You could offer them a glass of wine or two to get them relaxed, but they might not come across on air very well. Yeah. Or you could tell them that there's a million people listening today, and you know, just be careful and conscious what you say, and that's going to sort of affect their state. So it's screening them from all that and keeping them focused. So there are things that we could put together in terms of our refining this model. We would refine it, but we've got some good answers now. If you were going to teach me, what would you tell me to do? Okay, so the key is here is to ask the person, and one of the things I say to people when I'm doing the modelling project is, okay, if I had to sit in for you, what would I do? How would I do it if I had to cover for you?
Right then, I'll teach you the secret to radio. Okay, is there's one magic word that you need to know for the secret to radio. Do you think anyone can guess what it is?
You.
Yes, well done. You've been on the radio. So the secret to radio is, I went on BBC boot camp, and you've always got to talk as if you're talking
okay.
to.
And see, the thing is, what we got on there is you're meant to be teaching me.
I'm teaching you. You don't listen.
And there you go. So the person that uses the model, remember I mentioned earlier, once you get them into the area of expertise, is rolling them back into the thing. Okay. So the key is now is if I had to fill in for you, what would I have to do? Which is key. But what I want to do is to close your eyes again and reassociate. Okay. Okay. So close your eyes. Really relax. I'm going to come back from 5 to 1. As I come back, you're going to become more and more relaxed. 5, 4, 3. Really relax. Let yourself go. And I want you to think about how you would teach this information for someone to stand in for you. What would you tell them to do specifically? Remembering that the mind can only process direct, simple instructions. How would I go about doing your skill? What would you teach me, and how would you teach me to go about doing what you do in the station so I can be equally as effective as what you are? Okay, so really relax, close your eyes and think about what you do, how you do that, and how you can transmit that information across to me step by step. Remembering the mind can't process a negative instruction, and the mind, the more simple it is, the easier it is to follow the instruction. So if a 5-year-old couldn't understand it, it's too complex. It's got to be very, 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 very structured and basic. And when you're ready and you've got the answers and you've got the process for me, come back at your own time, in your own pace, and fire away.
That's so much.
Okay.
Okay. One one thing that you have to always remember in radio, everything is on the seconds, okay, which is really, really important. So you need to be looking at the clock in front of you all the time. So for example, when you're playing a song, it's literally on the seconds, and it says towards the end of it how many seconds you've got till the song finishes. So if you're playing another song after it, then you need to literally be bang on. So as soon as that song finishes, to play the other one. And also we've got to put the news on and do the weather as well, so it's all on the seconds. It's very much about timing in radio. If you're a couple of seconds off, then there's a gap, literally. So
which is a process, and I could learn that process through a technical side, but in terms of delivering your skill, what would I do?
So you need to be calm and confident.
Okay,
so you need to manage your own state first of all before you go on.
Okay, and with our NLP techniques, how can we be calm and confident? What could we use to get us calm and confident?
Our mind.
Yeah.
Breath.
Okay, breathing. What else could we use to be calm and confident? Anchoring. So
Yeah.
there's all these things we could use to get into state. But state, as I mentioned before, state of the other person, state of us is key. So the first thing I do is I would learn the technical aspects of someone, okay? Because the technical aspects that Sarah mentioned there were quite complex for my mind, and I would say, okay, I'll speak to the technical side and get all that right. It's easy enough to learn. Then I would go back to the skill I'd like to acquire, state for the other person, state for me. I'd use the anchor. What else? How else could you teach me?
Well, an anchor that I do use is when I put the headphones on.
Okay, so you use the headphones. And remember you teaching me. What else would I do?
You need to be good at multitasking. So you need to keep an eye on the timing, but also obviously keeping an eye on the questions that you're asking your guest, and also thinking about what music you're going to play next as well, because there's no specific playlist.
Okay, so they're the keys. Time, questions, music. Time, questions, music. Okay.
Okay. Also, the words that you use. So never talk as if you say. Never say the words listeners. As we mentioned before, you've got to always talk as if you're talking to a friend. So it's a one-to-one conversation. So how are you doing? Okay, so always using the word you. Hope you're well. Hope you're having a good week, and what have you. And then just sound happy, sound like you're having fun, so enjoy it. They say smile when you're doing
going back to
just a smile. That comes across. And what we do as well, just talk for no more than 3 minutes, and then play songs. If you start to waffle on for too long, you lose people's interest. So talk 3 minutes, play a couple of songs, talk 3 minutes, play a couple of songs.
Okay, brilliant. And they're very precise instructions that I would need. And to get those precise instructions, we had to go on conscience. Because when we're having a conscience conversation, and you'll find that with the expert, it just goes around the houses all in a tangent. And it's useful information, but for you to pick the bones out of what you need, unconscious competence, getting into an unconscious state can be worthwhile, okay? And it can be more powerful for you, because there's more bones to unpick if it's a conscious conversation, and you might not get the accuracy in detail. So from there, I feel I'm a lot more confident. I could elicit more and more of what goes through Sarah's mind, her process. But I feel from there we've got enough flesh to work with. She mentioned the process, which could be organised through a technical point of view. She mentioned how to get into state. Well, I know to do that through my NLP expertise. Timing, question, music. Well, I've prepared. I've got my questions and my timing right.
And also as well, if your guest is never talk over your guest. Wait till they're finished, especially if they're giving lots of emotion. Let them finish, even if they start crying or anything like that. Don't reassure them. Don't step in. It makes good radio, apparently. So, especially if you've got a caller on the phone.
Sure, and we could elaborate on that and find more techniques and keep drawing more techniques until we sort of like can develop through the modelling process. How did you learn?
How did I learn? First of all, I learned from listening to other people's radio shows. I learned on some of you as well, Jim.
Thank you. About time. I had to wait half an hour for it.
I also went when I started, well, first of all, I started an American radio show. I did that for a couple of years, which was live and via webcam as well, so feedback from there. We also had the radio show, what was he, host Steve? He would give us feedback feedback, and what we'd have every week was like a mentoring session by Skype. So all the radio show hosts, which were from all over the world, Germany and all over, would tune in, and what we'd do is we'd listen to each other's shows or a bit of it, and then everybody would give the feedback on it. So if you're absolutely rubbish, you got told, you know, they said it in a positive way, or maybe you could, you know, improve this or what have you. First of all, said all the good things, and then other ways we could improve. So every week we kind of did that, which was really helpful, because you listen to yourself back, but then you also listen to how other people view you, which was really good. So we did that quite a lot. Then when I started at Salford City Radio, I went on a course, BBC Boot Camp, which was really useful as well, and that was different radio show hosts from different radio show studios at the BBC, and we did different things. So first of all, we all wrote down a bit like this, really, people that inspired us, and we stuck it up on the wall, people that we thought were good, people that we thought were bad, and we said, why did we think they were good, why did we think they were bad, and different things. And then what we do as well is listening to each other's show again and give feedback on that. So that was interesting. That's
great. So we've got information there in terms of how Sarah learnt to where she is. So through various courses, we could isolate the courses, what she learnt in the courses. We could also isolate the people that she receives feedback from, the appraisal system that she has, and make it personal to where we want to go in our endeavour. What do you believe about yourself? And this is an important question, what do you believe about yourself? Because, and I'll explain as to why it's very powerful in terms of what the person believes about themselves.
In terms of radio? Yeah, I believe I'm good.
Okay.
I really enjoy it. I think that is the main thing as well. I really do enjoy it. So I go on there to have some fun, and I think to myself, you know, you could be having a bad week, you're having a bad day, but 2 hours you go in there and you just enjoy yourself and just forget about everything else. Play some good, I always play uplifting, feel good music, and I think that changes your state as well. And I just say to everyone, let's just have some fun. They might think I'm a bit crazy. Come on, let's just have some fun, and everyone just enjoys it. And I think that comes across on air.
Okay. That's interesting. Brilliant. And it's interesting really. So enjoyment, and the belief that you are good, which helps. We can believe in ourselves. And
I think through getting feedback and listening to yourself back as well, you can see how you've improved, and you think actually. And it's always weird at first when you listen back to your own voice, because no one really likes the sound of their own voice, and when you first listen back, it's oh no.
Okay.
Get used to it.
Your mission or vision, your purpose.
With radio, I'd love to have a show on the BBC.
Well, your actual mission. No, your mission in terms of when you are doing the
show.
The shows, yeah.
To make it as interesting as possible. It's called the Feel Good Factor. So the aim is to get an inspirational guest on and inspire, you know, for a couple of hours, just bring a bit of feel good factor magic to whoever's listening.
How do you know you were good?
Feedback, I suppose.
Through feedback, yeah.
Yeah. So studio managers listen in, and people that are in the radio studio that come in and say, oh, great show, it's going, it's really good. And feedback.
Okay. What emotional and physical state are you in when you're doing the shows?
Very positive, very confident, very outgoing. As I say, a state of having fun and enjoying it. It's very, very important. I think that really comes across. If you're in that state of mind where you really don't want to be there and you're not enjoying it, I think that comes across in your voice, your voice tone, tempo. You can listen to some interviews and it's quite dry and they're not really...
And we'll also do an unconscious process here. You get Sarah to go into an unconscious mind and get into an unconscious state, like state of trance, and to sort of really identify where she is emotionally and physically when she's in that zone. Of doing the show.
I think to get into that zone as well, I think preparation is very important, because if you haven't planned, you're a little bit off course. Oh, okay, you don't really know where I'm going to go with this interview. You've got 2 hours, and 2 hours is quite a while, even though sometimes it goes fast when you're prepared, but if you're not prepared, it's like, okay, what should we talk about next? So that kind of throws you off a little bit.
Okay.
So I think preparation is very important.
What happened for you to be good?
Okay, so practice.
Okay.
I think in my case, I just went straight in at the deep end. I think you told them I've been doing radio for ages, and
we've got information there, so practice and going out there and you know, not holding back.
I think
so
listening to yourself again after the show and thinking, okay, I've repeated that word about 10 times throughout the show. Don't we do it in the next one? Because there's a lot of words that we all do tend to repeat, and suppose when you're on a 2-hour show and you keep saying the same kind of phrases, it's recognising and learning. So just keep listening back to yourself.
And finally, you would ask them who else do they recommend that you talk to about this same process. So you would ask the person, who else do you
One of the radio studio managers was really good, and he's a stand-up comedian actually, and he always gives good pointers about different things. I learned some of him as well.
And that's the key really.